where were you yesterday or this past weekend?
Oh my God. We went to Red Fleet State Park. I've lived in this state my entire life. This place is like 2 hours from Park City. It was like unbelievable. It was like being in southern Utah in the Red Rock Desert, but there was a giant lake in the middle of it all. I mean, the best of all worlds.
I've never been outside of Park City in the area where we went snowmobiling. I've never explored Utah, but when I see photos, it seems like another planet.
Seriously, it's another planet. It's like a country within a state. There's so much going on here. So yeah, you'll have to come out and I'll be your tour guide officially.
What did you guys do out there? Do you bring like a picnic or?
Yeah, we went. We camped on some BLM land because we had a few dogs, and we collected a few sheds, some antler sheds, which was really nice. Went hiking, which was really just romping up some old washes. And you'll never believe this, but we found an arrowhead. In
Whoa.
my 29 years of life, I'm always looking for arrowheads. We've never seen one, and there in the middle of the wash was an arrowhead. It was unbelievable.
Whoa. What are you going to do with it?
Oh, we ended up leaving it. It was such a hard moral quandary, because you're like, every other person who's going to come upon this is going to take it.
Right.
But we did. We ended up kind of sticking it in a cool little hole and said, okay, if someone else finds this, it's worthy. But yeah, it was amazing. And yeah, we went paddleboarding with the dog, went swimming. To go swimming in May is a pretty exciting, feat. So it was a success.
Oh man, I'm jealous. Hey Unlock listeners, this episode's brought to you by Point Central, the leader in business-grade smart property solutions designed for rental properties. Point Central's technology helps you increase property safety, reduce operational costs, and improve guest satisfaction. Head over to pointcentral.com/VRMB to learn more. And Rental Guardian. With over 1 million property owners, thousands of property managers, hundreds of software partners and counting, Rental Guardian is arguably the most complete and trusted travel and damage protection platform in the industry. You can learn more at rentalguardian.com. And Breezeway. Breezeway's operations platform makes it easy to ensure quality, safety, and cleanliness across your properties so you can deliver an amazing guest experience every time. Head over to breezeway.io to learn more. Hello, my vacation rental friends.
Hey, hello.
How's it going?
It's going well. How is your quarantine going these days? You still staying at home?
Yeah, I still haven't been outside the house for about 2 months, or maybe more than 8 weeks by this point. Yeah.
Luckily, she's got a big yard to do a lot of gardening in. It is very hot today, though, which is making me miss the snowy adventures we had in Park City, Utah.
Oh, look at you with a nice little segue. I am certainly, before we get into Park City, Utah, newly appreciative of good weather. We've been through a little streak of rain and cloudiness over the last few weeks, and today is beautiful. It just puts me in a nicer mood. But let's get on to the winter wonderland of Park City, Utah. We had an amazing trip there. We visited Main Street. We did some snowmobiling. We did skiing with an amazing instructor. What was your guys' favorite memory from our Park City trip?
Aside from the people, because I really feel like we connected with a lot of locals. I love staying in Main Street. It looks taken out of a storybook or a movie set. It was super lovely to be there right before Christmas. So everything had those lights. You could just feel the holiday spirit.
And I personally loved our snowmobiling outfits, which looked really great on film.
And snowmobiling itself was quite a blast. Which of you kept getting stuck? One of you, I seem to remember.
Not me.
Was that me? I thought that...
That wasn't me.
Well, filming and driving the snowmobile for the first time at 10,000 feet elevation, that was a rough trip for filming.
I kept getting stuck when we were doing the donuts.
Right, you got stuck on the donuts,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but it was
excuses. I mean, if you can't film a amazing television show and get audio and drive a snowmobile at the same time. I mean, what are you really doing on our team anyway?
Plus, when your host is surprise tackling you as you're trying to get the shot, it got interesting up there.
Quick shout out to the Vacation Rental Show, Park City episode. Fantastic, fantastic trip. But speaking of Park City, today's podcast episode features Heleena Sideris, who is a pretty remarkable young woman. She grew up in Park City, but some of the stuff she's doing at her business, specifically in terms of giving back and showing real tangible, profitable outcomes to her bottom line, to me is really remarkable. You guys agree?
Absolutely. I was really impressed to hear about the use of vacant vacation rentals to house an overflow from the domestic violence shelter they have locally, also to house first responders. I was also impressed to hear that the owners that Heleena is dealing with were super on board with the program, and it ended up being a good thing for her business overall.
That was one of my favorite things about the podcast. It reminded me of Angela Leone in Maui when she was telling us about how the most difficult part of Make-A-Wish Foundation is to find accommodation. So this is something you can apply year-round to your vacation rental business, and it speaks highly about your company values.
Absolutely. And I loved how Heleena and her team have basically added a $1 additional charge to all bookings that she said basically 100% of the guests are okay with. Well, like 98% of the guests or something like that. And they have donated hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years to this land trust. It's just really great thinking that I think every single listener will really appreciate. With that, should we let this podcast episode rip? Heleena Sideris is the International Sales and Guest Relations, I just want to call her a maestro or a specialist, at Park City Lodging in Utah. Today we're going to talk about the power of family business in this new landscape of travel. We're also going to talk about how some of Heleena's learned background in nonprofits gives her company a huge leg up on their competition. And lastly, I want to talk to her about the importance of lifestyle in this industry of ours. Heleena, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. I'm so excited to be talking about all of these subjects with you. It's more important than ever. So thank you for pulling this all together.
Yes. And you say it's so nice to be here. What is your normal quarantine / coronavirus pandemic daily routine like?
Well, I was one of the lucky ones who got to go into quarantine twice. Back in the beginning, I was hosting a few international groups in the beginning of March. So I kind of locked myself up in my house in Old Town. It wasn't horrible because, my view of Main Street is unbeatable. And, I do live in a 135-year-old mining house, so there might have been a few ghosts keeping me company, but, it was great. And, our company, we've been so flexible and adaptive. We've all really kind of come on board. This is actually one of my first weeks back in the office, so I did shower. I don't know if you can tell via this podcast, but
Nice, I can. Smell great.
it gave me a nice excuse for that. So the world is looking bigger and brighter every day.
And does that mean that guests are in town or guests are still planning their stays and therefore have questions to correspond with? Or what are you actually doing work-wise?
Yes. So this weekend, we actually had our first arrival. It was a local arrival, just a drive market 2 hours away, honeymoon couple. And then we're starting to see a few trickle in. Actually, we officially opened for big marketing, welcoming people this week with the new health order that came out in the beginning of the month. So it's interesting. We're actually seeing, I spoke to a woman the other week who called. She was from California, and she was asking, what can we do? What, is anything open? And I said, well, curbside pickup at all these great restaurants. We have 400 miles of hiking and biking trails. And, just go pick that up and go sit in a park. And she was beside herself that she would be able to go sit in a park, something that simple. I mean, it was really surprising for me and humbling to realize how much we have, in our backyard and how lucky we are to be here, So there's been a lot of that. I've been checking base with a lot of our international partners, and it was a little grim there for a while, but I have to say that the optimism is really pulling through. There's, a unique traveler out there, and those of us that are hanging on and digging in and, you know, doing all the difficult things, making all the new policies, doing the hard work, we're going to come through this, and I think it's going to be a win. I'm feeling, very optimistic this morning. Maybe it's you guys, but
um, it's a nice sheen. I'm feeling it too. When you say international partners, and I noticed international sales in your job title, who are these international partners?
so the majority of them are wholesalers that we work with. We make those relationships over years and years and years. So, I mentioned before in March, I was hosting a group of Australians. So we would have, one of the largest international ski wholesalers out of Australia. They would send a team
Mm.
out to Park City. We host them here. We have, cocktails and dinners and site tours. And they work, it's kind of a long chain of supply there. They work with local travel agents who work with individual travelers. So it just kind of gives us this really unique position to be able to get right in the face of consumers without them
Mm.
having to find us. And a lot of the international travelers aren't necessarily comfortable at this point in time doing the Airbnb and the kind of individual package itineraries. They want to go
Mhm.
somewhere that has everything. One big
Mm.
price, you pay it, you're going on a ski vacation. So the majority of our markets are, Australia, UK, and then I work a lot with our Latin American markets. I've
Cool.
actually been down there traveling and visiting them and kind of developing that. So this will be an interesting time. I think it's more important than ever to keep international relationships, even though international travel is more uncertain than ever.
Mm.
I just think it'll go a long way, and they mean so much. Those personal relationships.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Australia because I was just speaking with another manager in Park City who had a guest from Australia staying in a very expensive home. And when the pandemic hit, and they basically decided that they were going to stay for several months and were actually very content to pay full face value for the entire stay. He was kind of jazzed about that. But Park City is a world-class place to quarantine. Do you think, in beginning to project where travel and all that is going, do you think a business like yours with standalone properties, with outdoor activities that are not up in each other's grill, that travelers, that it kind of steps into the spotlight in a new way that it hasn't before compared to either busy urban destinations or hotel options where you just have to interact with other people's germs?
Yeah, I think absolutely. And in an odd way, this is, one of the many silver linings and opportunities that this is presenting our industry, in that we've had this fantastic product all along, and the consumer is slowly but surely sort of starting to recognize the benefits of coming to stay in a private property in an individual home. But this is just going to hyperspeed that into the
Mm-hmm.
next kind of level. And we see people now, the properties that we're seeing booked just through the summer, they're the individual homes, they're the places that offer private hot tubs, and I think having a destination where outdoor recreation is kind of the hub, the seller of why people come here, is really going to benefit us. And on the other flip side of that is the traveler profile is a little different, right? The person who wants to
Right.
come here might be a little more adventurous, might be a little more willing to take those risks. So it's kind of, in a way, we could be making this little perfect cocktail for the vacation rental manager in,
Yeah.
outdoor destinations.
Yeah. I want that cocktail
Yeah,
in the
too
hot
early.
tub. For those who don't know it, Park City Lodging, give us a brief snapshot in terms of how many properties are managed and employees and where the properties are located.
Sure, yeah. So Park City Lodging, we've been in business since 1984. It's my mom's business. So very family oriented. She started with just a handful of properties back before this was even a thing, really, property management. And today we manage about 150 properties and 9 HOAs, which is a pretty important part of our business, especially when tourism kind of falls to the wayward a little bit. So, and let's see, we have in the high season in winter, that's our peak season is, skiing. We have about 75 employees. We have all of our, maintenance, housekeeping, everybody's in house. And then year round, we go down to about 35 employees.
And this is a family business. I think don't other family members work there?
My brother does. My
Okay.
dad is the one who's never clocked in. And that's probably a rule that keeps my mom and dad married.
He's the smart one. He's like, I'm not going anywhere near those vacation rental lunatics.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I know I want to get into a little bit about your background, which I know is all pre-vacation rental stuff. But since you started working in the business 2016, I think it was, after doing a little research,
Mhm.
have you had any secrets or learning points about working with family? Because I think a lot of people who have considered it have reservations.
Yeah, I will say I'm extremely lucky in that working with my mom, we have a great working relationship. She is the first boss I've ever had that is able to be demanding in a respectful way. I learned so much from her. Working with my brother is a little different. We kind of, rub each other that way, just as siblings do. And I've learned with working through him is I gotta treat him like my coworker. I can't come in and deal with him as my brother,
Hmm.
and I've caught myself a few times being, he'll say something in a tone and I'll think he has malicious intent. I'm like, no, this is my coworker. This isn't my brother today. So
Hmm.
that's been really useful for me actually kind of delineating that hard line. Like once you walk in the office, you're dealing with your coworkers and not your family. It helps be less sensitive and
Your mom struck that balance, or your mom is just in general a really good communicator about things that she demands, but presenting them in a nice way?
no. So my mom is, I mean, she's incredible. She kind of approaches this a little differently and I'll quickly say I don't know if I could ever take over this business because I don't think I have thick enough skin to deal with everything she deals with.
Yeah.
But she, on the other hand, she treats all of her employees like family. Where I get a little too kind of emotionally caught up in things, I need to kind of have a little bit more of a delineated relationship. She is, if someone's rent is, if someone gets kicked out of their house because their house is for sale, guess where they're moving in? They're moving into Rhonda's house,
Hmm.
until they can find another spot. She really, and, sometimes it backfires for her, of course, but on the flip side, we have some of the most loyal employees. And something that I notice is, like I'll see a housekeeper out in the fields talking to an owner, and they're talking to that owner like they own this company. There is so much,
Mm.
you know, just ownership there and loyalty, and it really translates well.
And how do you teach that or encourage that or hire for that?
If you've ever met Rhonda, she's got a personality and she doesn't really hold it back. She doesn't really hide it. When you walk in and apply for a job, you know exactly what you're walking into.
Hmm.
There's going to be a lot expected of you, but you better be sure you're going to have all the resources you need to get through this. So she's got this really good balance of kind of challenging people to step up, giving them the resources they need, but always being there to catch them if they fall.
Mm.
Some people have kind of mentioned that it's a micromanaging, but when you work in a family business and the president has been with it since the beginning, there's a lot of benefits to her kind of having all of her hands in the pot. So when we
Hmm.
don't have a maintenance manager, Rhonda's the maintenance manager. She can really adapt and kind of be flexible, and we all see that. So, for instance, when this all went down, we lost a lot of our staff for various different reasons. So we were out housekeeping. It was me, it was my mom, and we all just have that kind of mentality that we're a family, whatever it takes.
I love to ask vacation rental managers what tools that you were using pre-pandemic could you simply never see yourself going forward without? And at the very top of their list, across the board, is smart property automation. Point Central can reduce hassle and improve income by doing things like eliminating keys with connected door locks. That allows your guests to go directly to the rental. You're not going to be doing those late night trips due to lost keys, and getting notifications when cleaning crews or maintenance teams are going in and out. That's more important today than ever before. Control utility bills by scheduling set points so renters can't drastically increase or decrease the temperature. I know in my vacation rental business that was a regular occurrence. You can also prevent costly maintenance projects through real-time alerts like water leak detectors, humidity limits, and HVAC analytics, which tells you when your HVAC unit is starting to misbehave. In this new landscape where human interaction is a new sensitive point, it's more important than ever to use the tools at our disposal to make for a better final product. Give owners that extra peace of mind with monitored life safety services such as smoke, carbon monoxide, and intrusion monitoring. Point Central does all of this stuff under the umbrella of smart property automation. I'm proud to call them a partner of this project for many years now. Visit pointcentral.com/VRMB to learn more. They take great care of everybody who reaches out through this page. That's pointcentral.com/VRMB. Now let's get back to the show. So let's go back a little bit to when you were born into this family. You were in Park City. The vacation rental business started in 1984, you said. It didn't look like you were going to be the vacation rental family professional. You had originally started down this environmental studies and Español track. ¿Cómo estás?
Bien, gracias.
Nice. And then you went into this world of nonprofit. So give a little summary of your nonprofit journey, because I think that's really important context for people to understand the amazing stuff that you're doing now.
Yeah, it's funny how it all connects at the end, isn't it? You know, never in a billion years would have ever even entertained the idea of working for my mom's company. And I have to admit, it really wasn't until I was maybe 20 or 21, graduating college, that I even understood what property management was. So, I went to school. I graduated high school a year early because I was just so eager to get out into the world. And I went to University of Oregon and I studied environmental studies, humanities, and Spanish. And, after college, I got offered a job to be a teaching assistant on a sustainability-based study abroad program in Costa Rica. Fantastic. That's my dream job. What else am I ever going to do in my life, So I moved down there. I lived there for a year. It was the most intense year of my life. I mean, it was a very hands-on learning experience. So, when we wanted to understand, for instance, the effects of environmental justice, when they built a new landfill right outside of San Jose. Well, we went to the landfill, we spoke to the people, we brought them in, we found migrant workers who were working on pineapple farms. It was a very immersive experience. It was very intense. And I felt ready, after that year, I was looking forward to moving back to the Northwest and getting back into environmental education. And, I said, I want to go home and just ski one more season in Park City. I love skiing in Park City. I'm just going to go home for 3 months and just, spend the winter skiing. So
Famous
I did that, must have been 2012, and met this guy, you know how that goes. Met this guy. And then I just kept saying, okay, 3 more months. So I kind of just continued on this little, I was with this person, who I'm still with today. That was 7 years ago. It's unbelievable.
Do you still just call him Guy?
Yeah, he's just Guy.
Yeah.
His name's Bransford. So between Heleena and Bransford, we have some interesting names. We're a little difficult to get to know out there. So, it was great, though. It gave me an opportunity. I never considered working in nonprofits or working in environmental work in Park City, It for some reason just never crossed my mind. But here I was looking for work. So I found, I joined the AmeriCorps program, and I worked for our land trust here, the Summit Land Conservancy. And, Utah has maybe 6 land trusts compared to Colorado, who has maybe 35. So there was a lot of work to be done. But, as AmeriCorps, I was making $5 an hour. So I was like, okay, after this job, I'm going to move to Oregon and I'm going to, find my life. But then I found this great job working for this preserve and eco center. So I did a little youth education there, and that was super fun, like dissecting frog legs all day, stuff like that, really important work. And then after that, this is kind of where the story starts to weave together. Family friend was working for the Park City Chamber Bureau in tourism sales and marketing, and a job came up for the international sales position for Latin America. And I was trying to get back into, the Latin American realm. I wanted to get my Spanish skills honed again. And again, I was like, great, this is something I can do for maybe a year. And then I'm going to go back and do all these great things. And that was, again, a really intense experience. I was working, 70 hours weeks at the age of 25. But it was incredible. I was meeting people from all over the world. I was meeting journalists. I was making these friendships and establishing these relationships with people that I still have to this day. I got to go to Brazil for 2 weeks. I mean, that was incredible. And then after this job, I got an opportunity to be the co-executive director of a wildlife refuge in Idaho called Earthfire Institute. And I was like, this is incredible. Of course I'm going to go take this job, and the chamber was very supportive of me, and they sent me off in a parade of excitement, and I moved up to Idaho, to Tetonia, Idaho, population 200. And I lived in a double wide trailer with, we had 4 grizzly bears, we had about 16 wolves, 3 coyotes.
What do you mean you had
bobcats.
them like as pets?
They were, so I wish you could see this right now, but my my trailer window abutted the cages of the bears. So we would work on animal caretaking all day and education. Again, it was an education-based kind of approach. And for a lot of different reasons, it wasn't a good fit for me. So after about 3 months there, I, had a crisis of identity, and I, as you do, went on the Grand Canyon, because that's the only way to, reestablish who you are again. And then it was after that I really kind of came back to my mom and said, okay, I've dabbled here and there. Let's make me a job. And how can I do how can I improve the community that I live in the ways that I want to do while working in this industry? And I had never before seen a way to do that, but lo and behold, if you have a willing manager, a willing boss, and an enthusiastic employee who wants to get stuff done, it's incredible what we've been able to do in these past few years, just having the manpower and having the passion.
This is a perfect opportunity to introduce you to one of our sponsors, Breezeway. Breezeway's property care and operations platform solves the challenge of ensuring clean, safe, and high-quality properties in the wake of COVID-19, combining deep learning technology with mobile-first task management. Breezeway automates your operations, and it gives you confidence that every property is ready for the next stay. You guys remember our interview for the podcast with Jeremiah way back in the day in Arizona?
Yeah, we've been talking about Breezeway for a long time. And it's interesting because it's always sounded kind of fascinating, but now it sounds like it's going to be absolutely essential for businesses moving forward.
It's one of those companies that whenever we host one of our Inner Circle roundtable discussions, whenever people begin talking about cleaning apps, someone mentions Breezeway and just raves about it, and then everyone in the room is like, wait, what is that? And they all write it down, and they all go off and use it. You've seen it like a couple of times, right?
Yeah, that's what I always remember about it. The first thing that comes to mind is people never saying a bad thing about it.
Yeah.
About their customer service, about the service they provide, all the problems they've solved for their businesses. is just the number one example on how do you keep track of checkouts, property maintenance, and cleaning, all these things that can turn more complicated than they should be.
Are you secretly like a Breezeway employee? Because that just sounded like the most perfect pitch.
I wanted to tell you that I'm actually gonna quit. I'm gonna quit the podcast.
You're quitting my
Yes.
team and heading over to Breezeway?
Yes.
And you're going to reveal it on this podcast live? Gosh. Well, you'll be in good company because we also interviewed Corinne Oki. Do you remember that last year?
We do, yeah.
Yep. Scottsdale.
She's a wonderful ambassador of the industry. I always like to say that a product in the industry needs to be really good, and that's important. But the people who are behind the product are as, if not more important. And one of the things I've always just really admired about this team at Breezeway is that they're upstanding folks and they are cool to hang out with and they're patient answering questions. Breezeway was created by the founder of Flipkey. That's our friend Jeremiah. Breezeway is helping over 400 vacation rental managers transform the way they care for properties and best respond to COVID-19. And in this new travel future, we need to be using the best tools at our disposal to create safe environments for our travelers. So you can head over to breezeway.io to learn more. That's Breezeway, BREEZEWAY.io. And I want to dive into your nonprofit partnerships with Park City Lodging. You and I actually first connected through the Star Throwers program.
Yes.
You sent us an email and said, not only do we love the idea of Star Throwers, socially responsible vacation rental businesses, but we kind of are one already. We're already doing all this stuff. And we're very excited to have you in that program. We'll certainly add a link to your page for this when this podcast comes out. That probably means that we've got to get that page up, by the way.
I know, that's on me. It's on my list.
I think it's on all of us. But we're already doing such wonderful work. And if listeners want to head over to the social responsibility page of parkcitylodging.com, there's all these different amazing groups, some of which Helena's mentioned already, like Summit Land Conservancy, and all these other ones that just seem so relevant. There's the Mountain Trails Foundation, there's Recycle Utah, there's Image Reborn, there's Adopt a Native Elder. I'm not going to go through all of them just because there's so many of them, as well as your initiatives that are kind of baked into the way that you guys operate. This is very obviously something that you feel responsible for. That's why you use the word social responsibility. And you're clearly somebody who believes that a small business needs to have these components baked in. How do you explain some of the opportunities that it opens up or the benefits that it brings to people who haven't necessarily gotten started just yet, who kind of know it's the right thing to do? But what are some of the actual tangible outcomes that you guys get to benefit from a business perspective as opposed to an organization that's really just doing transactions?
Right. Yeah. So, we're kind of in a unique position, Park City Lodging, because we came into this a little backwards. We came into this saying we want to do these things because we're passionate about them and it's the right thing to do. And then, if there's some unintended benefits, that'll be great. But now we're recognizing and we're actually seeing in real time some of those benefits. So just for instance, recently when the pandemic hit, we reached out to our owners, and we have a domestic violence abuse shelter here in Park City that was at capacity. And so we said, here we have all these properties that are sitting empty. We reached out to our owners and we said, would you be willing to donate your property to either this shelter, to a healthcare worker, or to a first responder? And not only was the response overwhelming, but we were getting comments like one of our owners said, you guys are the church of Park City. And
Whoa.
It's hard to kind of measure that in a very tangible way.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the owner retention we have, I mean, we have owners that have been with us for 25 years. And, especially as some of these larger conglomerate, managers start to come in, people are seeking out companies that have values and that are able to connect them with the community. So, the other initiative we did with Image Reborn, we connected our homeowners and allowed them to use their properties to host no-cost breast cancer healing retreats. And, every single owner, every single person, unfortunately, knows somebody or has somehow been affected by somebody with breast cancer. And so it creates this kind of personal communication line that opens up to so much more trust, so that when something is going on with a contract or they are approached by a competitor, we do have the relationship that they're able to come back and have a conversation with us. Another example would be, this was kind of reactionary, but when the ski resorts closed, we made the decision, we're going to give back money to every single guest. This is out of everybody's control. This sucks for everybody. We're in it together. And that was just a decision we made. And, from that, we are rebooking all of our third party bookings direct and hopefully getting those guests, within our cycle for good. And, at the same time, we were going out to bid for a new HOA, which was a really big deal. It was a huge project and we really wanted this HOA. And when it came down to us and another management company, the board said, quote unquote, the reason you got the contract is how you dealt with your guest refunds over the pandemic.
Wow.
Huge deal.
That just gave me goosebumps. And I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes me a complete vacation rental nerd that I got stimulated by that.
You
But
are. There's no getting
that
out
is
of that.
so cool because it's such an immediate proof of that
Right.
doing the right thing, working on a much greater business scale.
Exactly. And that was like so amazing for us to see. And then, there's a lot of internal benefits. We do an employee survey every 2 years just to kind of get a pulse on everything and make sure that we're doing the right things for our staff. And, I actually just pulled it out recently because some of the questions were, we asked, do you feel proud to work at Park City Lodging? Well, 91.4% of our 35-person staff strongly agreed, and the rest agreed.
Cool.
People enjoy the company culture here. They feel proud to work here. They want their friends to come work here for the same reasons. So there's kind of an internal benefit there as well.
And share also your guys' initiative in terms of donating a percentage of bookings.
Yes, this is probably one of our oldest initiatives and the most adoptable. I mean, anybody listening to this, please feel free to get in touch with me. It's such a great program. So we partner with the Summit Land Conservancy, and their program, it used to be called 1% for Open Space, but now it's called Living for Open Space. And we just tack on $1 per night extra as an optional donation for all of our guest reservations. And we just collect that and we send it to the Conservancy. And they use that money to protect huge swaths of open space in our community. So there's a direct benefit back to our guests. And, honestly, we've probably been doing that for 35 years. And we've had maybe 12 or 15 people opt out of it, which is incredible. I mean, that is
incredible. But what kind of curmudgeon opts out of that?
One of them was one of my guests, and it was an international guest, and they said, that $14, it's got to go. And I said, okay,
fair enough.
But, overwhelmingly, people are, if anything, it piques their interest and their curiosity. They say, oh, what's the Summit Land Conservancy? And then again, it gives us an opportunity to just kind of tell the story of Park City and position Park City Lodging as, we're not just your Airbnb house. We are your community partner that's bringing you into this place.
I love this so much. And my brain just took off. Anybody listening to this could choose any cause in the destination of their vacation rental properties that ideally somehow ties back to the experience that the guest will have upon arrival, but could tack on an additional fee, if it's even $1, and that not only would people be totally excited to pay for it, but it's this new marketing mechanism that draws people to you because you have like minds and you're doing something different
Yes.
and you're standing out from all of your competitors. I don't think I've ever heard a tip that includes charging more and that achieves more both together. That's a very brilliant thing. I don't know who came up with that in your team, but what way to go.
It was Rhonda. She's genius, you know. We were able to kind of do with that program what we wanted, and she said, you know, let's do this. And I have to tell you guys, once the program's set up, you know, it's so easy. You cut a check once a quarter or once a month, and you send it to this nonprofit, and you get stories back. You know what they're doing. You can see tangible. You can experience it. I mean, it's the most rewarding experience. We're
So cool.
cheerleading all of you on right now.
You are, and like the planet. So good on
Yes.
you.
Yes.
I want to talk about how you actually share all of this wonderful stuff that you're doing, because a lot of people do really thoughtful, social, environmental, responsible things, but they feel a little bit awkward about promoting it as part of their business. They feel like it may be pushy. They feel like it may not be come off as sincere. What has been your big learning in terms of weaving that into your product?
Yeah, you know, and that's a legitimate concern. I think it's important for people to be thoughtful and considerate when they're looking at how to market the initiatives they're doing. This was something that I really sort of took over when I came on full time. And it really came from my environmental background and my environmental education past. And the whole impetus was, if people don't know what we're doing, how are they going to replicate it? If people don't know what we're doing, how are they going to be inspired to do the same things? And
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, that was the first kind of wave. And then the second wave behind that is there's this whole world of conscious consumers out there. And we're not doing them any favors by hiding the initiatives that we're taking part in. Let's connect them. They want to spend their dollars responsibly. They want to travel in a way that might give back to the location they're traveling to. Let's give them a way to do that. And so, you know, in a way, there's almost a responsibility, I feel like, or an obligation in kind of celebrating yourself, because it creates this sort of pressure on the industry that we should all be doing. So there's no excuse that every single company shouldn't be doing some sort of social or environmental initiative in some way. And, you know, just recently, my boyfriend was, you know, he needed to buy a new sleeping bag. And this was, you know, just recently during these times. And he saw an ad on Instagram for a mom and pop family owned gear shop out of Colorado. And the product there was, you know, $25 more expensive, but he went out of his way to buy that product from them because it's, you know, it means so much to this new generation of kind of conscious consumers.
It's a beautiful concept. Have you traveled somewhere where the place that you choose to stay is because they are doing something conscious compared to the hotel or the generic commodity vacation rental down the street?
You know, I always try to seek out family owned kind of individuals. So when we did a big trip recently to Italy, I I did not want to stay in big hotels. I wanted to stay in places where people could connect me with the community. So, you know, we went to Vernazza and we found this family owned little tiny hostel. And we ended up extending our stay there 5 extra nights because it meant so much to us that we were giving money directly to this community, not through Airbnb, not through TripAdvisor, not through one of these, you know, larger scale things. And I learned a lot about that. And you probably are very familiar with this in Costa Rica. Costa Rica has this great system. It's the I can't remember what it's called, the leaves. You know, you can choose to stay at different hotels based on how many leaves they have, and you know, 4 leaves.
Oh, right. Like this, the environmental sustainability campaign, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I've been a big advocate for trying to develop something like that here locally so that people do have a way to choose consciously where they want to go, you know? And again, when I'm looking on people's websites, there's hardly ever any information about what they're doing. And then you go stay with them and you learn, oh, you know what? They actually have this after school program where they take all these kids out and they teach them how to go fishing. And you know, again, that's where I'm kind of a huge proponent of, you know, market what you're doing so that people can find you, right, and spend their dollars with you in the way that they want to.
As travelers begin to return, and as the world begins to return to a new kind of normal, or adjust to a new kind of normal, there's a lot of things that you guys do that is very personal, that has to do with really showcasing your personality, the family business component, the fact that you're local, the little touches that make you special. You also probably use tools and technology, and one of the things that we're trying to emphasize this season is really taking advantage of all the wonderful tools that are out there available to vacation rental professionals today, which is just a world away from probably what was available to your mom when she first started in 1980. Are there tools that you guys use, pieces of technology that you simply now couldn't do without moving forward? Is there anything that you just absolutely love to death and consider an integral part of this human business that you run?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I'm kind of the oddity in all of this. I'm very old school. I'm very analog. I'm the person who likes to oh, we have a group of 200 people coming. I'm going to handwrite them all letters. I don't know why. That's just kind of the way I operate. But there's definitely a few pieces. And especially recently, we've been really taking stock of everything, just given the times and saying, is this something we really need? And there's definitely a few that have filtered out of that. We use, a Navis call tracking system. And it still surprises me to this day that people call to make reservations, but there's a huge, audience out there that picks up the phone and calls and makes a reservation. And that the amount of information that we can track off of those calls versus, a reservation coming in off of Airbnb, we're coming up for the weekend, the end. Being able to have that conversation with somebody and track all of their different key components. Oh, you're coming with your sister for your family reunion. And we track, so that's kind of a big part of my job.
And so how does that work? They call in and you're logged into a platform and you can take notes?
Yeah, exactly. You get, it's a really great system. You get a lead form that pops up. So you get the call and it comes in through this platform, but it goes to your desk phone. And then you get this lead form that pops up. And the entire time they're talking to you, you're just taking notes on absolutely everything. And the best part about it is that the way the system is designed, it won't let you get out of it until you've kind of completed all these tasks and asked all these questions. And so it really,
won't let you get out of it. I love it.
yeah, it's like this really intense, militant type.
You will profile this
Things we
individual
do
by
for customer service.
And then, so what do you do with a profile like that once you've got all the little details taken in note form?
So we, that profile lives forever with that person, and it's something that we can pull back up and then edit. So another part of my job is to go in and say, oh my God, okay, this person's been coming here for 10 years, staying in the same property. They're getting a letter from the owner, and those little personalized touches are, we have one group of guests. They're a bunch of guys that come out skiing from the East Coast every year. 20 years was their anniversary this year. And we know exactly what they like to drink, Stella Artois and a bottle of Pinot Noir. And so it allows us to kind of create these customer profiles of people that are very specific. And another one that's kind of new that I don't think we could ever let go of now is a couple years ago, we picked up a text messaging technology system, super easy. It's just, on your desktop. And wow, you get the communication really goes through the roof when you offer text messaging.
What's that tool called?
That we use a Zip Whip. There's a few different ones out there, but Zip Whip's super simple, pretty easy, very straightforward. And then it's great because it helps us, push our partners. We have a bunch of community concierge partners, and if they're running an hourly special for our guests, come in now and get a free entree. That just gives us the ability to just again be that higher touch point, more personalized kind of community guide in our guests' experiences.
And is that suggesting that some guests want to talk on the telephone, and that would be perfect for the Navis system, but others want to only text message?
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Okay.
So, we have people inquiring text message. I mean, things like, "Hey, I noticed this property. Can you tell me the bedding?" Whereas, 10 out of 10 times that would have been a phone call, and who knows how many phone calls weren't made because people don't want to pick up the phone.
Hmm. Right. That makes sense. When you start to look at the future traveler with all of these new normals taken into account, do you think there's anything different that they're going to be demanding, whether they're able to articulate it or it's just happening inside of their head and we need to read it as owners and managers, things that we need to do differently to appeal to this basically new generation of travelers?
Yeah, absolutely. The first word that kind of came to mind is just transparency. I think people are going to be expecting, rightfully so, to know exactly what they're walking into, what the cleaning protocols are. They want to know that they're being taken care of and that they're more than just an asset to this company. They want to feel that sense of caretaking. They're trusting us right now with a lot. They're risking traveling, they're risking leaving their state or their home and coming into a new place, and they're trusting our staff to take care of them along the way. So we've done a ton of work recently in just revamping our protocols and our policies, and then again making them public and easily findable so
Mm.
that nobody's going to have to second guess or call or pick up the phone and say, "Oh, are you cleaning?" And I think that people are going to expect a different level of kind of flexibility. And again, that plays back into the trust. We are now challenged with being, flexible and creative in getting people to book regardless of what's going on in the world, whether or not it's a pandemic. Or we kind of went through the same thing, right around the Olympics in 2001. So, it's challenging us, and it's producing a lot of innovation, and we're seeing that actually we can be a lot more flexible than we have been in the past. And so I don't know, I think that's going to forever change the landscape of personal travel.
One of my favorite joys in life, and if I was to say this to any non-vacation rental professional, they'd think I'm extremely weird. But then again, I am weird. One of my greatest joys in life is watching an independent vacation rental manager adapt and evolve before my very eyes. I love our style of entrepreneurship. It's so much more agile and fun to watch than a large corporation could ever dream of. That adaptation applies to property managers, finding new niches, finding new products that you can offer your guest. But it also applies to the service side of our industry. And in today's uncertain world, managers are looking to protect their revenue, guests, and the units that they manage. And there's a company that's been doing that for a while. Rental Guardian has been delivering travel protection, damage protection, and liability protection for over 600 managers for many, many years. I see them at all the conferences. But in addition to their classic service, Rental Guardian is innovating too. They recently launched Master Cancel, which basically enables you the ability to offer flexible terms and conditions to your guests while also protecting your hard-earned revenue and the income for the owners that you represent. For me, it's been fun to watch this adaptation or evolution take place in front of my eyes, and I'm recommending that any manager that wants to stay fluent on all the top technologies, take a look. RentalGuardian.com is where you can learn more. That's RentalGuardian.com. Let's get back to the show. Yeah, babe, you read my mind and know what I like. Let's talk a little bit about lifestyle, because you're someone who likes to explore the outdoors. You're someone who is now surrounded by awesome people that you enjoy hanging out with. You're someone who clearly likes your guests, and interacting with them and sharing with them this wonderful corner of the planet that you call home. What do you think makes running a small business and running a vacation rental family business such a perfect fit for the lifestyle design? I hate to use that phrase; it's so cliche, but it's cliche because it's kind of accurate. Compared to the traditional corporate track, not entrepreneurial, but corporate track of working in a big corporation, climbing the ladder, crossing your fingers that you didn't get fired in this round. Is there something special about this model that we've been kind of doing all along and refining and tweaking and honing that you think has a new place in the professional's future?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think absolutely. And, again, I'm kind of speaking from my own sort of vision of the world, but I might kind of extend that to maybe my greater demographic of the young professional. People are looking for meaning in their work. And, when you look at vacation rentals, you don't originally anticipate there's going to be a lot of opportunity to make a difference in the world, to AKA, quote unquote, save the world. But we're challenging that idea in a very real way, and we're walking the talk, and we're showing that you could come here and be a reservationist and still find ways to give back to your community in very impactful ways. And another component to that is kind of part of our approach, part of our recipe, I guess, is the initiatives that we do, we align them with the passions of our staff. And I don't think you have that sort of bandwidth or flexibility to do that when you're working within a large corporation. You're sort of caught up and kind of held hostage to the greater currents of that business, whereas this is a very kind of flexible back and forth conversive environment that makes, regardless of where you are on the so-called chain or on the so-called ladder, when it's your turn to speak, you have all the respect and all the backing that you need to get done what you need to get done. So, for instance, one of our front desk agents, she came to us. She worked in biomechanics with the military. So that was, as you do, you go to vacation rentals, of course.
Natural.
But she she's kind of been working with a few people in the community to create her own nonprofit called Mountain Memories, and they work with cancer survivors, young children, I think under the age of 15, and they just give them these great experiences in the outdoors. And so she came to us with that idea and that passion, and we, green lit her the entire way, because again,
Wow.
it's about aligning, our initiatives with the passions of our staff. And then we recognize that, okay, she just works at the front desk, but this is a meaningful enough project for her that we're going to keep her as an employee.
Yeah. I love that. And biomechanics.
I don't know if that answered your question. I feel like I rambled a bit, but
No, it did, but I actually want to add one layer onto it, which is I also think that people who come to work in the vacation rental industry find that there's a great amount of satisfaction or gratification in seeing the result of your work immediately. I hear from a lot of my friends who work in the corporate world that it's very hard to see outcomes and tangible results. It's hard to like celebrate things just because there's such a long process or so many different people involved. In the vacation rental space, you could literally do a really good job and make someone's vacation, if not a memory for the rest of their lives, and see that articulated in a review. And it's like, holy cow, I have found a calling. And that's a powerful thing.
I'm over here clapping right now because I cannot. I mean,
Thank
everything you just said is exactly it. We when you get that review that mentions your name or that mentions that one little tiny detail that you did to try and make their stay better, there's nothing better than that. And I think as human beings, regardless of what industry you're in, regardless of what your dream job is, we want to connect. We want to make other people's lives more enjoyable. Even with everything that's going on in the world, at the end of the day, you want to go to bed and say, did I make somebody's life better? And you're exactly right. In our industry, we have that opportunity every day, all day long. It's
Mhm.
incredible. I kind of have chills a little bit. I'm just going to say.
Yeah, yeah. This is what happens when vacation rental people talk shop, because when we talk about this stuff around non-vacation rental peoples, they think we're crazy.
It's so true.
If someone's listening to this, Heleena, who is not yet in the vacation rental space, who maybe has access to properties, maybe they know somebody who owns properties, maybe they own a property of their own, and is thinking about entering and starting their own property management company. Um, is there any high level advice you give them that helps calibrate their expectations?
Some of the best advice that is not, again, not that tangible, but I would just say put yourself in the shoes of an owner, of a property owner, and then at the same time put yourself in the shoes of a guest. You have to be constantly looking through those two lenses, and there's almost never one side to a story or a policy or an approach. So anytime you think you have something nailed down, you think you have your contract details nailed down, okay, well then get out of your shoes and then step into the shoes of that property owner and pretend it's your property. So you kind of have to constantly be kind of changing your perspective and being open to that perspective, and constantly being able to admit to yourself that you don't know everything. My mom's been in this industry for over 35 years, and every day she learns something new. And that's been a huge lesson for me and very kind of humbling. And just recognizing that it's such a dynamic industry that you just have to come to the table every day with like eyes of innocence and just that same passion, reconnect with that, and then remember who you're serving.
Yeah, I really like that. And I would just put a stamp on that using the word uh, curious. I've found that
Hmm.
people who want to learn, who want to know other people, who want to empathize or put themselves in other people's shoes tend to do really well. And oppositely, people who are not curious tend to get really frustrated in our industry, tend to offend one of those parties or the other or both. And at the end of the day, hospitality is this act of opening up our doors and welcoming people into our home. And there's a great responsibility in that. So, my last bit of advice for people who are listening is recognize that this is a deep process. This is a skill that is refined over many years. This is not a quick overnight success. Uh, Throwing your property up on Airbnb and getting a booking is not synonymous with true vacation rental success. How do you guys define your success at Park City Lodging?
A big thing for us is just having guests return year after year. And, even beyond that is being able to capture those guests that book with us on Airbnb. And then they realize that we're all people and that we all, are individuals. And then they're like, okay, I'm never going to book on Airbnb again. I'm coming back to you directly. So again,
Mhm.
it's just that kind of that personal connection. And like I mentioned, like that guest that's been coming and staying with us for 20 years. I mean, I know everything about him and his family and how they ski and where they ski, and we catch up throughout the year. And I look forward to them coming, and that's a huge success. That's what it's all about. Is sharing this space with the rest of the world in a responsible way, and in a way that generates a love for travel and a love for destination in them.
That is so beautifully put. We speak the same language. I'm over here clapping, like you said. I think vacation rentals too are positioned maybe as the silver lining of this pandemic to really step into the forefront as not only the physical properties and the actual features that are personality driven, that are standalone, that are um, local, all the things that travelers are looking for these days, but also us as entrepreneurs and having roles in our local communities. We're kind of like um, at this perfect position to really take advantage of all that. Is there any one wish that you've got for our industry moving forward?
It's going to be a continuation of what we've already been doing, and that's just to continue to collaborate. that we're all in this together. I truly believe that the more information we can share with each other and help rise each other up and bring this great level of professionalism to our industry, I just want to see more and more and more and more of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And a great way to do that for folks who are listening, you may have an existing short-term rental alliance in town. That's a great place to start. If you don't, get together with another fellow owner or manager, start trading tips, invite other owners and managers to the table. If you have all that stuff going, reach out to other short-term rental alliances, begin sharing your information, your best practices and findings with them. It is going to take a big effort for this fragmented industry to unite. But I do believe that if we do so, we're in a really nice position. Heleena, thank you for being so brilliant. That was a lovely chat. Have a great day.
Such a joy. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for everything that you're doing for our industry. I mean, seriously, I can't wait to give you a real high five in person.
Yeah, and thank Rhonda for having you in the first place. She sounds awesome.
Okay, I will.
See ya.
Bye. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this discussion as much as I did having it. The episode was produced by Tammy Rowe and Stuart Hooper of Mango Fish Studios. Our intro song is The Moon of Pajang by Instant Party. And if you feel inspired, please consider sharing to social media with your big takeaway. We love takeaways. They make us feel great. Lastly, if you want to receive updates, you can do so at vrmb.com/mmm. And if you want to join our virtual community of vacation rental professionals, become a member of VRMB's Inner Circle today. Until next time.